Hi, this is Cynthia again. Thank you so much for being interested in this little series where I get to talk about yoga and yoga tips and things about the history and the studies of yoga. And today I thought I would cover something that's kind of major, which is what's the definition of yoga? I have students that ask me this all the time, like, what kind of yoga do you teach? It's one of those things that teachers really, when getting asked that question, kind of almost go blank. Like, I don't have an answer to this question. What kind of yoga do I teach, or what is yoga? I have a student in teacher training who said that a young mother and daughter just started practicing with her, and they asked her, what's yoga? And she was like, I didn't know how to answer that. It's so true. Like, is yoga religion? Is it politics? Is it a map to the nature of all of reality? Is there even a definition? How old is it? Does it go into the Vedas or the pre-Vedas, into these Indo-European cultures? There's so many questions that this point asks. So what is yoga? Well, the first time this word yoga was used as a religion, like as an actual tool or practice, comes out of a post-Buddhist Upanishad called the Katha Upanishad. And in this line it says, when all of the senses are reined in, that this is yoga. And that it really says one of the most beautiful lines, I think one of the most beautiful definitions of yoga, which is yoga is the coming into being as well as the ceasing to be. And I think that's profound, because later traditions will so often focus on the ceasing to be part of yoga. It's like this transcendent movement of going really almost body denialist. Like the Patanjali Yoga Shastra really does come out of the Samkhya system, which is that the world is an illusion. And so when Patanjali says yogas chittavritti nirodha, he's really saying yoga is the stilling of the movements and the fluctuations of the mind, or really the ability to stop the mind at will, which is just a tremendous thought, to be able to go into full and total stopping. And notice that word nirodha, right? So there's this Buddhist influence. And why does Buddhism play such a big role in yoga? Well, because after Buddhism came into the religions of India, these Vedic religions, the concepts of Buddhism, like life is suffering, and there's a way out of that, to cut these bonds, to cut these ties. You see these post-Buddhist Upanishads just getting a little more straightforward in their way of cutting, right? So you have this early definition of yoga from like 500 BC or just after Buddhism, this Katha Upanishad. Then you have all of the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita describing these different pathways to yoga, and yoga as dedication, yoga as purification, yoga as devotion, yoga as something that can be picked up life after life. Again, we see this Buddhist influence, this reincarnation is now getting thrown in. Then you have Patanjali. And then you have, after Patanjali, after 400 of the Common Era, this amazing thing that happens, and that's what I love to teach, which are the goddess traditions and the goddess lineages. And now you have yoga really intertwining into Tantra. The earliest definition of Tantra is a spell. So how to use breath and mantra in order to achieve certain powers. And at first, these powers have nothing to do with spiritual enlightenment. They have really to do with possession, and the curing of disease, which includes anxiety, and it's these amazing goals, these powers, these siddhis, to be able to fly up into the air. But the definition of yoga starts to be really woven into these goddess leaning traditions. And you start to have definitions of yoga where the practitioner of yoga is moving into subtle states of vibration in the heart. So the definition changes a lot over time. When we say I practice yoga, it doesn't just mean one thing, right? It starts to mean the ceasing to be in some traditions, but also the coming into being in other traditions. So I think I go back again and again to that very first definition of yoga from the Katha Upanishad. Yoga is the coming into being as well as the ceasing to be, because it allows for both. It's the ability to breathe and to pulsate on the breath. I know that there's a lot more definitions out there. I know I'm really just taking a couple of examples that I particularly like out of history. But I think one of the things that I like to teach is that yoga is complex and the history is complex. And the religions have been appropriated over and over and over again. Buddhism appropriates the Vedic religion, and Samkhya goes and appropriates Buddhism. And there's this churning and this adding to and this synthesizing and this braiding of all these different traditions. And so we really want to think of this definition as fluid. And when somebody asks, what is yoga? I think the answer kind of has to be, it depends. It depends on who you are and what your interests are and what's your goal. Is your goal to achieve a stronger body so that you can meditate well? Is it to reveal, to recall, to remember the pulsation of your being in your heart? Is it a psychosomatic tool of ascension through subtle energy centers? Is it the stopping of that which is unreal, of anything that moves, of this maya? Because it could be called any one of these things, and some of them contradict each other. So my personal definition is that yoga is notice what you notice. It's the ability to deepen and awaken curiosity. And yes, that has implications. Yes, there are practices involved. Yes, there's history involved. And yes, the history does matter, because knowledge combined with practice deepens what's happening in the body. So what does it mean to you? I'm genuinely curious, especially in the modern context. Of course, I'm in this modern postural yoga world where yoga means something very specific. Sometimes it's what I call asana influenced exercise, but sometimes it's a lot more than that. So what is it to you? I would love to know.